Welcome back to Bleed and Be Blue, your go-to podcast for all things Chelsea FC. I'm Zube.
And I'm Avery. Always great to be here, Zube. Hope everyone's doing well.
Absolutely, Avery. And if you're a Chelsea fan, you know it's been a bit of a roller coaster lately, hasn't it? Especially after that Flamengo match.
Oh, man, you can say that again. That was a game, for sure. Lots to unpack.
A lot to unpack. So, today, we're diving deep into that Flamengo clash. We've actually identified 6 key takeaways from the game that we really need to dissect. We're talking everything from like player temperaments to tactical shifts and what it all means for the road ahead for our Blues.
Yeah, it's not just about the scoreline, right? It's about what we learned, what needs to change, the nitty-gritty. So buckle up because we're about to get into it. All right, so jump in right into our first takeaway, and it's probably the one that had most of us pulling our hair out, right? Nickolas Jackson.
Oh, man, Jackson. I mean, seriously, he comes on and then he's off. Like moments later, I couldn't believe it.
The immediate red card, Zube, it was so frustrating to watch.
It was almost comical if it wasn't so serious, wasn't it? He literally just stepped onto the pitch, fresh legs, and boom, sent off. It screams of a temperament issue to me.
It really does, and this isn't like an isolated incident either. We've seen it, right? He's been accumulating cards in previous games too, is becoming, a worrying pattern.
That's it. I still love Nico, and in my mind, he can't do no wrong. I accept.
Exactly. It's not just the red in this game, it's the accumulation before that. He picks up silly yellows, he gets frustrated so easily, and for a striker, you need to be cool under pressure, not constantly on the edge of getting disciplined.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, isn't it? You want your players to have that fire, that passion, but there's a line. And Jackson, bless him, he seems to be crossing it far too often. It impacts the team. When you're down to 10 men, it changes everything.
Absolutely. And you wonder what the coaching staff is doing about it. Is it something they're working on? Because it's clear it's a recurring problem that needs to be addressed. It's not just about losing him for a game. It's about the consistent impact on momentum and team structure.
For sure. I mean, you bring on a sub for a reason, to inject something, right? And when that injection immediately leads to a disadvantage, it just hurts. You want him to be like the solution, not adding to the problems. We need him focused on putting the ball in the net, not putting himself in the referee's book. That said, I still love Nico, and in my mind, he can't do no wrong. I accept his apology. Okay, so moving from the disciplinary woes, let's talk about Maresca's tactics, shall we? Because one thing that's been consistently on my mind since he took over, and certainly in the Flamengo game, is this insistence on Reece James playing in midfield.
Yeah, it's definitely a talking point, isn't it? I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, Reece James in midfield? It's worked a few times, but in those times, you always get those moments where you think if he were a natural midfielder, he would have been able to navigate some tricky situations. He's, arguably one of the best right backs in the world. His crosses, his attacking prowess from that wide position, it's just so unique.
Right? You've got this incredible dynamic fullback, and Maresca's like, nope, we're putting him in the engine room. And you saw it against Flamengo. He was definitely trying to dictate play from deeper. I'm just not entirely convinced it's maximizing his talents, We have an abundance of talent in midfield like Santos and Nasugo. The experiments need to stop.
I don't know, Zube. I can kind of see the logic, though. When he pushes up from right back, he often drifts centrally anyway, doesn't he? So maybe Maresca's seeing that natural inclination and trying to formalize it, give him more touches in central areas to, influence the game from there. Maybe it's about getting him on the ball more often.
But at what cost, Avery? At what cost? We lose that explosive wide play, that overlap, those incredible whipped-in crosses that just terrorize defenses. I mean, against Flamengo, there were moments where I just craved that width, that directness that Reece usually brings. It felt a bit stifled trying to play through the middle with him there.
Yeah, I get that. And he did seem a little like he was finding his feet at times. It's a new role, a demanding one, especially against a team like Flamengo, who are, mid-season and super sharp. But if it allows us to, free up another attacker or perhaps gives more defensive stability by having him centrally, it could pay off down the line. It's a huge shift.
It is, and it's a big gamble, I think. You're taking a world-class player from his most natural and effective position and putting him into what's essentially an experimental role. I'm just not sure Maresca has, fully perfected it yet. It didn't look like a masterstroke in this game, that's for sure. It felt more like, an experiment still.
An ongoing experiment, for sure. And, we'll see if it develops into something truly special or if he eventually decides to revert back. It's definitely something to keep an eye on, though, as the season progresses. So speaking of ongoing experiments, let's swing over to the other end of the pitch, shall we? Our man between the sticks, Sánchez. I mean, you can't deny the man pulls off some absolutely phenomenal saves, can you? There were a couple against Flamengo where I was just like, wow, how did he get to that?
Yeah, absolutely. His shot stopping is genuinely top tier. He makes those highlight reel saves, doesn't he? The kind that, get everyone off their seats. He's incredibly athletic, and when he's on, he can single-handedly keep us in games like we saw moments of in the Flamengo match. But, and there's always a but with him, isn't there?
It feels like while he has these moments of brilliance, there are also these moments of, a bit of chaos, a lack of consistent composure that just makes me a little bit nervous. Like the back line, sometimes it feels like they need a more commanding presence behind them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's that balance, isn't it? We get the spectacular, but sometimes you just want, the routine. You want the calmness, the assuredness that every ball into the box is going to be dealt with without any last-second heart attacks, especially against a team like Flamengo, who would just, relentlessly put in balls in.
Precisely. You see goalkeepers like, the very best, and they just exude this calm, this control over the area. And while Sánchez has the incredible reflexes, I sometimes worry about his decision-making off his line or his distribution, which can be, a bit iffy. It's like, give me a few less worldy saves if it means more consistent, calm reliability.
Exactly. You want that commanding voice, that presence that just, organizes the defense and instills confidence, not just in the big moments, but consistently throughout the 90 minutes. He's got the talent, Sánchez, no doubt about it. It's just maybe a bit more composure, a bit less dramatics sometimes is what we need. It's easy for us as fans to just pick apart Chelsea's performance piece by piece. But I think it's important to also look at the broader picture, right? And what other pundits and even players are saying.
Absolutely, because, we're not operating in a vacuum here. This wasn't just a random friendly. It's a Club World Cup match against a very, very strong opponent. And I've seen a lot of analysis out there that points to Flamengo being in a totally different stage of their season.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Cucurella, actually, he spoke about it, He said something along the lines of how Flamengo are first in their league, they're in the middle of their season, and they were physically better than Chelsea in that moment. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, because our guys, a lot of them just had a few weeks off, right? And they're just restarting. It's tough for European teams to just switch back on and immediately be at peak physical condition against a team that's, firing on all cylinders, match fit, and deep into their campaign.
Precisely. So while we're dissecting Maresca's tactics and Jackson's, temper and Sanchez's occasional dramatics, we also have to acknowledge that Flamengo were just, sharper, fitter, and more cohesive as a unit because of where they are in their competitive cycle. It gives a bit more context to that 3-1 scoreline.
Yeah, it's not an excuse for, everything that went wrong, but it's definitely a contributing factor. And I think some pundits have highlighted that pretty well. It just, offers a more balanced perspective on the game rather than just saying Chelsea were completely off it. They were up against a very strong side that was in peak condition. So looking beyond Flamengo now and all the immediate takeaways from that game, we've got to start looking ahead to Chelsea's next fixture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as much as we dissect the past, the future is always where the excitement really is. And I'm particularly buzzing about the possibility of seeing some of our newer signings feature prominently.
Me too. Who do you think we'll actually get to see? There's been so much talk, about who's coming in, who's still to arrive. It feels like ages since we've seen some fresh faces properly integrated.
Yeah. I'm really hoping we get a good look at some of the talent that's been bubbling under, Just seeing them on the pitch, getting some minutes, I think it could really breathe new life into the squad and, frankly, give us fans something fresh to be optimistic about.
100%. It's not just about the results, is it? It's about seeing the potential, seeing the tactical adjustments, and the impact these new players could have. I'm really keen to see how Maresca integrates them and what kind of fresh dynamic they bring. It's an exciting time. So that's been a pretty comprehensive dive into the Flamengo match, hasn't it? From Jackson's red card to Maresca's tactical tweaks with Reece James and, the ongoing conversation around Sánchez in goal.
Yeah, definitely. It's clear there's a lot for Chelsea to reflect on, but also, a lot of positives to build from, even with the defeat. And it's always good to hear those other perspectives, too, from pundits and players alike, like Cucurella saying how they were mid-season.
For sure. It really paints the full picture, doesn't it? So that wraps up this episode of Bleeding Bee Blue. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us for these discussions.
Absolutely. And we'll be back soon to break down the next Chelsea game, hopefully with some more positive news to discuss. Keep an eye out for our next episode, and come on, you Blues.
Come on, you Blues. See you next time.